Hello, everybody. My name is Scott Golden with Golden Opportunities Coaching, and if you're here, it's because you're looking for a way to improve your life. And the goal of this channel is to help you do that with practical, down to earth, spiritual, and practical advice of a scientific and motivational nature. And we're going to do this very off the cuff, very relaxed. So, what we need from you is to give us a follow if you like the content we produce. Also, give us a follow on social media as well. Two ways to do that. You can go to LinkedIn, Golden Opportunities Coaching, or on Twitter at PO Perception. On a daily basis, or hopefully so, we will be taking user-submitted questions and comments, and video content will come from that, actually audio content on a video streaming service. In any event, we have a question from Rachel. I have been coaching folks for nearly a dozen years and have worked with over 40 countries worth of folks, 12,000 people. Really a cool experience, and these questions, or the question that Rachel has asked today, is one that I get on a regular basis, and that is, how do I know when I'm ready to make a change, and how do I get started? You know, change is inevitable. It's one of the few things in human existence, no matter where you are in the world, no matter your age, your demographics, your racial background, your orientation of sexuality, your economic background, or any other qualifier that we have. Change is an inevitable part of your experience. And so one of the things that I tell people all the time is change is inevitable and it's constant. So I think Rachel's question is valuable here for a number of reasons, because I think it impacts and affects nearly everyone on the planet at one point or another, and almost every day. So what is a change? A change is just a pivot in focus. And so when you know that you are getting frustrated on the emotional level, or constantly tired, or agitated, or having a lower vibrational emotional experience, in other words, not feeling very good, it's usually time to take stock of the things that are going on in your life that may need alteration or change. The basic principles here at Golden Opportunity Coaching is based around something that I've created over the last 10 years known as the FLAP method. That stands for Focus, Language, Action, Plan. The idea behind the FLAP method is simply this. When one is struggling with any situation in the three spheres of life, the spiritual or belief sphere, the professional or personal sphere, it is because one of those four things, the focus, the language used or allowed to be used by other people, the actions taken as a result, or the plan for unforeseen circumstances, is out of balance. So immediately, when one is trying to make a change or putting effort towards making a change, one thing that needs to be done almost on a consistent basis is asking a very valuable, simple, but profound question. Why am I doing this? If you don't have a compelling why in any change you make, it will not stick. Simple as that. And so sometimes the why is emotionally driven. I want to feel better. Other times the why is I want to help others. Other times the why is I want to have a better standard of living, or I want to raise my experience. I want to have more fun. The first thing to do before making any change is understand the why. The second thing to do in making any change is to make a map. And a MAP stands for a manageable action plan. The majority of people who struggle with making changes ultimately do so because they have either taken off too little in their attempt to change, or taken on too much. Taken off too little, meaning that they are kind of playing it safe and there's no risk, which means the reward probably going to be pretty minimal. Whereas if someone takes on too much, say I'm going to lose 100 pounds by next month, chances are they're going to set themselves up for failure. So creating a manageable action plan is necessary in order to find success. What makes the plan manageable? Well, the manageable action plan is made when you are internally committed to the process of the goal that you have set, and it can be charted as it relates to your daily, weekly, or monthly progress. The charting of the progress is important because it builds upon and uses your fulcrum of momentum. Most times, the energy of momentum is something we can feel. If we're feeling good about ourselves, if we're feeling good about a situation, that means we've created positive momentum. But similarly, easy for me to say, if we are not happy with the progress we are making, chances are it's because we're in a negative momentum shift. So, when making a change, it is best to start with small changes first. Don't, for example, try to quit smoking cold turkey if you've been with the habit for 20 years. Instead, cut down by a couple of cigarettes a day until you feel that you are making progress that you can be proud of yourself about. Therefore, when you feel the progress, you're going to internally feel better about your commitment to continue to make that progress. Secondarily, when making any change, have celebration points along the way. Journaling or writing, sometimes using music or a coach or other partner to help you remind yourself of where you've come from is also a useful tool. The change you are making has to make you feel progressive, and that's the most important thing. Do not make changes for other people. They won't stick. At the core, there are usually two reasons that changes stick for the majority of people. They're known as the D's of, D as in dog, of change. The D's of change simply state this: a person makes a change that lasts, and they are committed to, if they are A, desperate for the change because they want to avoid a worse circumstance, or they desire a better circumstance, and thus they are motivated to make a change out of a desire for a better quality of life. If desperation or desire is not at the center of the reason for the change, at the core, it won't last. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't make it. It just means that the likelihood that you'll go into your automatic response system and your lymphatic system and look at it and say, I'm going to go back to what I used to do, especially when I'm frustrated or feeling negative emotions, is more likely. The value of coaching is simply this: you have an accountability partner and someone who can look at you from an outside standpoint. Most often, the self-talk that we give ourselves will convince us instantaneously within about 15 to 17 seconds, several times per day, otherwise known as each minute. There's 2 or 3 challenges there, that we can or cannot do something. And so, having an outside source that can look at our patterns, help us to identify the changes we desire to make, help us to identify also the level of commitment we have to those changes, and, another important factor, forgiving ourselves for the times at which we haven't made changes before. One thing that stops many people from making change is the resentment, either energetically or emotionally held onto by them for the things they have yet to do. This is compounded by comments made by friends, family, well-meaning individuals who really do care about us, but they might not use the best terms or wording to show their care, consideration, or concern. What is implanted into our subconscious and unconscious mind then becomes almost like a looping record. So if you want to make any change, first of all, understand that it is your internal commitment and raising your standards that will lead to the change itself. You can have the best plan in the world, but if you aren't committed and feeling the progress and the momentum thereof, it won't stick. The reason it won't stick is simply because at the end of the day, you have to live inside your head all the time. And there's so many, billions actually, of inputs throughout a day, things that we filter, that what we go back to is our automatic belief system, or our core belief system. Most of the things we currently believe, however, are taught to us as children, taught to us as young adults, by friends, family members, partners, society, societal expectation, and even things like television and other forms of media. Most of the things you currently hold as a belief might not even be things you consciously chose to believe as much as it is an amalgamation of what you have surrounded yourself with. If you want to commit to making any change in your physical health, in your emotional well-being, or in your financial or any other status in life, surrounding yourself with individuals who are doing the same is also a really good idea. There's an age-old saying that says you become the 5 to 10 people you surround yourself with the most. And so the language that they encompass about their own life almost becomes part of your default programming of what you're saying to yourself, and you can actually, in some cases, even hear them in your ear when you're trying to make your change. Also understand that setting manageable goals means that you can change them, no pun intended, on a regular basis. Changing these goals often means reevaluating them on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis to see how much progress you're making. Remember, life is a marathon, not a sprint. And even though we set tangible things such as time or deadlines, it doesn't mean that we have failed if we fall short of our own expectation. Shaking yourself up and realizing that it is necessary to see yourself as a successful person in the process of change is part of the illumination process. Now, sometimes the changes we want to make are for other people, sometimes they're for ourselves, and sometimes they're just because they feel right. In a future video, we'll talk about the correlations of emotions as indicators and the fact that emotions should not be used as motivators to make decisions, but instead indicators of either the need for change of focus or the need for gratitude. But suffice to say, most often, when a person is emotionally stirred to action, the desire to change is there, but the follow-through is often not. I encourage you, if you have never had a life, relationship, or business coach before, to investigate Golden Opportunities Coaching by punching it into your favorite search engine, following us on LinkedIn and Twitter, and also getting in touch with us so that we may answer your questions in a fun, interactive way. One thing that I would also say about change is that it's not scary, but many times we've been trained to believe, that change is in fact scary, overwhelming, frustrating, or unmanageable. If it feels any of these negative emotions, it's because it's being taken in too big a chunk. Sometimes taking a leap of faith is necessary in order to find success, but other times finding a way to partner with others who feel the same way you do can make the community of the desire for change and growth useful. Remember that one of the key metrics for a successful life is personal development and growth. That means if you're not growing on the inside, your spirit is wasting away at some level. So the changes that you make are also inspired as you go through this life of appreciation and fascination. After all, life in itself is, most often, and quite simply, a choose-your-own-adventure opportunity in many times. Unfortunately, the parameters we're given with rules, regulations, some we take, some we keep, and some we're taught, cause us to forget the interactive and ever-changing, ever-evolving nature of that which is the human experience. I encourage you to find one thing each day that you can tackle and see if you can change your thought process, then your actions, then your focus upon. If you can focus on something new, you can act in a different manner. Remember, your reactions allow possibilities in all situations and in all times. You can choose the actions you take in order to maximize the results that you receive. It is also important to recognize and realize that above all else, you are already a success because you're on the leading edge of the desire for that growth, the desire for that connection to a bigger world that is moving quite often so fast that we forget that sometimes the biggest change we can make is to be at peace and in serenity and in complete understanding that life is about growth. It's about evolution. To your golden opportunity, this has been Scott Golden with Golden Opportunities Coaching, reminding you, keep your feet on the ground and your mind in the moment.